My name is Camille, and I'm going to be talking about the collapse of the automobile industry today. The rise in the auto industry started around the 1920s when everyone was looking for work and looking to make some money. The 1960s was the beginning of the decline in the fast-growing auto industry of Detroit, Michigan. There are three main reasons why this decline started to happen: decentralization, new technology, and the energy crisis of 1970s and the recession of 1980. After World War II, the racial tensions were higher than ever. However, not just one side of the issue was contributing, because both sides would do things that would raise tensions. The white mayor would steamroll roadways through functioning black neighborhoods, creating a shortage of houses for blacks. Riots started and innocent people were killed as a result. This all changed when the black man named Coleman Young was elected mayor. He imposed taxes on just whites and displaced many Polish homes. When more blacks started to move in, the white men were getting nervous because there were as many blacks as there were whites, and the white men didn't want them taking over their jobs. So both black and white men refused to work next to each other or with a man of different color. Technology is such a huge thing in today's world and leads to some great advances in our society. However, the technology was advancing too fast in the automobile industry at this time. It soon became the foundation of the industry, and that's what contributed to the downfall, because with technology as the foundation, the firm grew too fast for its own good. They couldn't keep up with the demands and didn't pay far enough attention about the future, and that led to their inevitable downfall. The last main factor that led to the collapse of the auto industry was the energy crisis of the 1970s and the recession of 1980. Because the oil companies that supplied the U.S. with oil slowed their production and put an embargo on the product. This started the energy crisis, and the government decided gas stations should be closed on Sundays and people should refrain from putting up any sort of holiday decorations that would use energy. With having limited gas, the price of gas skyrocketed. Most people didn't have the money to buy gas, so less people were using their cars or buying new cars. The recession also played a role because the energy crisis helped start the recession. Reagan's tax cuts then led to a large federal deficit, and working and wealthy classes of American people began to diverge sharply. Overseas manufacturers like Japan started producing cars at a cheaper rate, and American car makers couldn't keep up. This graph shows that personal consumption of fuel oil decreased in the recession and continued to drop after the years the recession was over, but they have slowly tried to rebuild their fuel firms. As you can see, it's been a slow and bumpy climb back to the top for Detroit, and it's not over yet. They're still trying to work things out to rebuild their economy. This graph shows how the recession of the 1980s-81 area dropped the rate for fuel. The increase in oil prices were only one of the factors that started the recession, and because of this, Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker tried to get inflation under control with monetary policy. What he did had an effect that he expected. It dampened economy growth, and they started to see a slight recovery, but it plummeted again in July of 1981. This was worsened by Reagan's tax cuts that I mentioned earlier. There were many different effects from the auto industry, the booming industry that nobody thought would go out of business or stop growing because it grew so big so fast. However, that is precisely the reason that they failed. People began to move away to find other jobs. Some couldn't afford to live there anymore, and so the streets of Detroit were soon vacant. The three major car industries, Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors, had no choice but to stop production. Ford decided to move their company to other countries for cheaper manufacturing, but Chrysler and General Motors asked the government for a bailout. This graph here shows the resident population in Wayne County, Michigan. People could not afford the taxes and living expenses anymore, so they had to move elsewhere. As of 2010, the residential vacancy level in Detroit was 27.8%. With few people living there, the less money from taxes they got, and the less money they had to support social services. Wayne County was just one of the many counties that was struggling to rebuild. Wayne County, however, is the county that was hurt the most because that was where the majority of the auto collapse happened. With that, the unemployment rate was huge because that region got hit the hardest. As an effect of all of this, the auto industries had to ask the government for help because if they did not, the job loss would be in the millions of people and they would never be able to rebuild from that loss. Chrysler and General Motors, like I stated before, got a temporary bailout by George W. Bush, and he left the future long-term plans to his successor, Barack Obama. Although this graph doesn't show the time of the auto collapse itself, it still represents Wayne County's climb up from this crash. It also shows that since things have not been the best and still go up and down, they're slowly trying to rebuild their county. After Chrysler and General Motors received $17.4 billion for bailout in December of 2008, they declared bankruptcy in the May-July area of 2009. In 2011, the population in Detroit fell to an all-time low, and so Michigan's treasurer said that they would conduct a formal review of Detroit's finances. Since Detroit filed for bankruptcy, they have to find a way to pay back all their creditors. And they're working a plan that will not only do that, but also start to grow their economy again. Detroit is fixing all the little things in their state to hopefully fix the bigger things. Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan announced that they have changed the mortgage system for the better and hopes to bring more of the population back to help rebuild their economy. We hope for better things, and it will rise from the ashes. This is the motto that Detroit has used to rebuild their economy and to get people to come back and rebuild their population. Thank you for watching.